Guys, so here we are talking about master budgets. Woo woo! Budgets are my favorites. All right, so let's talk about budgets. So when we're looking at budgets from a corporation standpoint or a manufacturing standpoint, from my experience, usually budgets are summarized or put together using spreadsheets. I've also seen where you can use a software or system to do it as well. So you can use, the book mentions an integrated budget and planning software system. My experience again in industry has been most times we use spreadsheets and we consolidate it together. All right. So let's talk about the master budget. The master budget is an integrated set of operating and financial budgets for a period of time, right? So the master budget in essence, it is a summarized version of all of the tiny budgets, the smaller budgets, and we'll talk about each of those budgets in the slides to come. But it is a summary of all of that information, maybe your budgeted and your income statement. Okay. So when we're looking at a budget, a master budget, this is what is inside or consists of a master budget. This is what makes up a master budget. So you have your operating budget, which includes your sales budget, cost of goods sold, which includes your production budget, direct materials, direct labor, factory overhead, and selling administration expenses. And then you have your financial budgets such as cash and capital expenditures. And so on the right-hand side, you see how you come up with a budgeted income statement and a budgeted balance sheet. So what I thought we would do is kind of go into detail of each of these buckets or budgets. But I thought we could do it in a little bit of a different way, and I'll explain that in a second. So in the slides to come, I just want to first outline in this slide what each of these buckets are, or budgets are, and then we'll break them down in the video or the slides to come. So at the very top of the pyramid, when we're talking about budgets, is the very top here, my pen works, is the sales budget. Okay. All right. So everything, when we're looking at the operating budget, this is the particular part that we're talking about operating budgets. When we're looking at operating budgets, it all begins with the sales budget. And the sales budget looks at estimating the quantity of sales. So if you ever wonder why there's always a sales position, always hiring, is because sales rules. I mean, I hate to say it, truth be told, but they are the money makers in the organization. Without the sale of product, how can we make money? Without the sale of services and those people, how can the organization make money, right? And so the sales budget is very important, very key for any manufacturing business, because then it will dictate, how much production of the particular product we need to make. And then from there, it looks at, from here, it looks at how much direct material do I need? How much labor do I need? And how much factory overhead I need to all produce the items needed to sell these items, to sell these units, right? So again, it all starts with the sales budget. And then we'll talk more about the selling and administration expenses, cost of goods sold, and then lastly, the budgeted income statement, okay? All right, so with that, we're gonna sail right into the sales budget. I kind of already leaned into most of the things I wanted to talk about with the sales budget, but for reference, the sales budget when we're looking at the sales budget, it begins by estimating the quantity of sales. So you usually look at the prior year sales as a starting point. So maybe an organization will say, hey, our sales was $1.2 million. Come on. $1.2 million last year. And so going into next year, we want to grow by, say, 20%. Right? So then that's how they'll formulate it. Or maybe they'll say, based on what we know about the market and the need for our product, or the technology that we have that's up and coming, maybe we expect our sales to increase by 40%. something of that nature, right? And so again, you're using maybe prior year's information to help predict where you want your sales to go. I kind of alluded to this a second ago, but usually you revise your sales budget from the prior year based on your advertising and promotion needs, or how you maybe will come up with a new marketing campaign, any price changes that you need to consider. So sometimes it's not all about dropping a price. Maybe you'll have to increase the price just a little bit because maybe your input cost is increasing. So maybe your raw materials or your direct labor is now increasing. So you have to increase the price of the product. And then lastly, you revise the sales goal based on industry or economic conditions. And so COVID-19 is a really good example of that. So going into 2020, maybe a lot of organizations will look at their sales budget and how this year has affected their the sales volume and where they're going into the future. All right, so when you're looking at the sales budget, this is our formula to figure out what our budgeted revenue will be. So you look at estimated sales volume times the expected unit sales price. Okay, so that's how we're going to come up with our budgeted revenue or our sales budget. So now what we're going to do here is I have created a handout for you guys, a PDF. And so what we're going to do is kind of flip back and forward and go through each of these sections to figure out how do we calculate our sales budget. Okay, so with that, all right. So hopefully you have this up. I have created this or somewhat of that. And if you read through this, take a second, read through this. But at the very bottom, it states that we will, let me mark this up. There we go. I don't want that. There we go. Okay, so at the very bottom in my instructions panel that I'm highlighting here, it's saying that we will prepare a sales budget, a production budget, direct materials, direct labor, and cost of goods sold, okay, based on all of this information that we have. So what we're going to do is take it step by step. As I explain the sales budget, we're going to do the sales budget and then production, so forth and so on, okay? So in our very first one, we're looking at what our sales budget is going to be for this Cobalt company, okay? So the way we're going to get this, we have two different products. We have product K and we have product L. And we're trying to understand what is going to be our sales volume and our total revenue for sales going into the next year. Okay, so here it is in this section. It tells us that our estimated sales for product K and product L, and then the selling price. So what we're going to do is take this amount or take this information and transfer it to the next page. Okay, so maybe you need to pause it or save it or screenshot it or whatever you need to do, and so we can keep going. Okay, so the unit sales volume, it says for product K is 40,000 units. All right, so I can already tell you that my handwriting will be way too big, but I'm gonna make it work. All right, so then the selling price of the product K, it tells us that it's $30 per unit, okay? So if we did this calculation, 40,000 units of product K times my $30 per unit, and I expect my sales to be 1,200,000, okay? All right, next one, product L. It tells us product L will have a total sales unit of 20,000 units, and the selling price of product L will be $65, right? So if I did that calculation, 20,000 times $65 per unit, I come up with 1,300,000, right? So my total revenue from sales is, I'm going to add up my total sales for product K, which is the 1.2 million, and then my total sales for product L, which is 1.3 million. And so therefore my total sales will equal 2,500,000. Okay. All right, so hopefully that made sense to you guys. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to stop this video, and we're now going to pick up on the production budget. So we're going to continue with this example.